Thank you, Father Andrew, for that kind introduction. And I want you to thank the Pope for me, for giving you the night off. I've been trying to get Andrew here for a number of years, and I've never been successful because he's always on the clock. But this year we got him. So it is my honor to present my colleague and friend, Tim Rieser, the recipient of WOLA's 2015 Human Rights Award. I've wanted to honor Tim for years. And in fact, I've wanted to honor congressional staff for years. And they are truly the unsung heroes of human rights work in Washington. And by but recognizing them is simply not done. Every one of them does their work in the name of their bosses. And it is simply breaking with protocol to ever recognize congressional staff. But before we move on, let's break protocol a little bit more and drink a toast to the congressional staffers who are here with us tonight and the many others who work to make this hemisphere a more peaceful and just place. Hear, hear. Okay. Now back to Tim. Tim, your face is up there really big. I'm sure that makes you really happy. Tim's wearing a suit tonight. Has anybody caught that? Any of you who know Tim? I knew that Tim had been working intensely on U.S.-Cuba relations for quite a while. But when the breakthrough was announced in December and stories about Tim's role began to surface in the press, I said, okay, this is the year. We're going to honor staff and we're going to honor Tim. Tim has been working to make human rights a central theme of U.S. foreign policy. Working with Senator Leahy, he developed the Leahy Law, which the senator clearly will be talking more, actually the senator will be talking more about in a minute. And while passing the law may have been the senator's responsibility, getting state, defense, and literally every U.S. embassy in the world to implement it was Tim's job. And not just that, Tim has made congressional human rights conditionality actually work. Human rights conditions on aid to Colombia were not a new idea, but the way they were implemented was a game changer. He pushed all sides, the NGOs in the US and Cuba, the State Department, the Colombian government, to do better, and he held us all accountable. In the end, I think it's fair to say that fewer people have died in Colombia and that more people have seen justice because of Tim's work. You have done so much, and I'm only addressing the Latin America component of your vast work here. But from the beginning, you believed in the potential of the International Commission to investigate impunity in Guatemala and made sure that the US government funded it. Those efforts have contributed to a wave of public support for government transparency and accountability in Central America. You promoted programs to implement the Central American peace agreements. You helped end US support for abusive intelligence structures in Peru. You addressed human rights violations in the drug war. You helped provide disaster assistance, supported justice reform and human rights programs throughout the hemisphere. And I think that the Inter-American Foundation would have gone out of business without you. My biggest pet peeve in Washington is when I hear high-ranking officials and staff tell me all of their limitations about the things that they can't do and why they can't do them. Tim never seemed to have gotten that memo. He always agrees to meet with colleagues from Latin America and with victims of abuse, even when he seems really tired. And he always asks, what can I do to help? Lately at WOLA, we've been thinking about how you help people understand that being active on human rights issues is not just a short-term phase of life, but is a way you live. And when I look at Tim, that's what I see. Now, before I hand you the award, there's a little gift from Senator Leahy that we want to present.
Early on, I learned that senators are merely constitutional impediments to the work of the staff who do all the work. So let me speak about one of those, one of the most important staff members the Senate's ever had, Tim Rieser. He's a dedicated, thoughtful, and compassionate public servant. Tim really sets the gold standard. It's the gold standard for how good work forges good ideas into working reality. Tim is in public service and has been for all of the right reasons. He doesn't find excuses. He finds ways to overcome obstacles to get things done. And I can tell you right now, there are millions of poor and oppressed people across the globe. They don't know his name, or mine for that matter. But their lives have been made better by the fact that we work together to make their causes a priority. Because I've turned to Tim to handle many of the things I consider top priorities in the Senate. Landmines and the banning of the export of landmines from the United States. He helped write and follows up on the Leahy Law, which makes sure that we don't send money to those units of foreign governments that oppress and victimize their own people. And then we have the War Victims Fund. The War Victims Fund spends millions of dollars every year to help victims of war, and Tim and I and my wife, Marcella, as a nurse, have visited the hospitals, we've visited the clinics, we've visited war victims and seen the work that this fund, which Tim helped get into the appropriations bill years ago, works. And then the Agent Orange project that I initiated with Vietnam. Throughout all that, the work done by Tim Rieser was exceptional, but more importantly, essential. And then we have the efforts to change our policy on Cuba. I've been to Cuba many times, almost always accompanied by Tim. He's been there far more times. We wanted to change our policy. We'd meet with the President of the United States, we'd meet with the President of Cuba. We wanted to change policy. But we also wanted to bring Alan Gross, an American held prisoner by the Cubans. We wanted to bring him home. I knew as Alan Gross lost weight, he was also losing hope. So I asked Tim several times to go down to Cuba, meet with Alan in his prison, just to talk to him and to listen. And of course, he called him over and over again. And then on that wonderful day, December 17th, took the president's plane, went down to Havana with Judy Gross. We picked up Alan. Told him, you know, now you're really free. And I remember the look on his face. The president called him on the airplane, but Alan told me the first thing he wanted to do when he stepped off the tarmac at Andrews Air Force Base was to hug Tim. He hugged him for his friendship and the hard work that he did to help with Alan's freedom. And I loved the smile on Alan's face and the smile on Tim's face as they hugged each other. Now, Tim and I have worked together a long, long time. We each had a thick head of hair when we started. Well, actually, I didn't. We've aged a bit. Tim, however, still looks a lot younger. But I'm glad that we worked together all these years. You know, on Capitol Hill, Very good members of the staff come and go, but not Tim. One of the reasons he is always picked as one of the most important people on Capitol Hill is because he has the experience and the skill, but also what's a real rarity in Congress, an institutional memory. So when Tim speaks from experience and conviction and wisdom, people listen. And that includes me. Tim, Marcel, and I are so proud of you and so proud to call you our friend.
How do you follow that? God. That's a good one. Thank you all. That was a hard act to follow. Thank you, Joy, wherever you are. I've got already 3 envelopes from our table. Thank you, Congresswoman Lee, for what you said. You know, one of the first things you're supposed to learn as a congressional staff member is never to receive public recognition or awards. So, as I think Joy and Joe Eldridge would tell you, when I was first told about this, I wasn't too thrilled about the idea. But I've thought about it and decided that it's a bit like Senator Leahy feels about the seniority system. He didn't like it when he first was elected 41 years ago. But the longer he's thought about it, and the more time that goes by, the better it seems. So knowing of the work that so many congressional staff do, I think this kind of thing should happen more often. It's a great honor for me, particularly coming from WOLA, and with so many friends here, many of whom I have not seen for so many years. It means a great deal to me. I also want to recognize Justicia y Paz for the outstanding work that they do, which we heard so poignantly described by Danilo, words I could not possibly match. It's a privilege for me to share this with people as dedicated as Danilo, Sister Cecilia, and Liliana. All of us here know that human rights defenders in Latin America, who often witness or document horrific crimes and abuses of power, at great personal risk to themselves and their families, are the ones who deserve our greatest admiration. It has been from meeting with people in remote and dangerous parts of Latin America that I've learned that our job is really to support them. There is simply no comparison between what we do here in the safety and security of our homes and offices and the courageous, life-threatening work that Justicia y Paz does there. The same can be said of Guatemala, Honduras, El Salvador, Ecuador, and other countries where social activists and indigenous people are often persecuted and excluded rather than respected and included. Everyone here, all among us, care about Latin America, and we know the essential role that WOLA has played for more than 4 decades. For 30 of those years, Senator Leahy and I have relied on WOLA's reporting and advocacy to help shape U.S. policies to protect human rights. Year after year, WOLA's mission in support of truth, justice, and peace has been our mission. It has been one of the high points of my time in Washington to be able to do this work. Regardless of political party or one's perspective on what is happening in Mexico, Central and South America, people want to know what WOLA thinks, because WOLA's exceptional staff not only have years of experience, but they also know how to work with Congress, which is a rare combination. As one who has benefited from their work, I want to thank all of you for supporting WOLA all these years and in the future. Like Joy, I want to also acknowledge and thank the other congressional staff, past and present, who are here. Cindy Buell, Janice O'Connell, Mark Murray, Ed Long, Terry Peel, Diana Obom, Sharon Waxman. I wish I could name all of you. No one knows better than Jim McGovern, who was here earlier, who we all love and admire, and who was once a lowly staff member like the rest of us, how we've helped and depended on each other. It takes many people to accomplish anything in Washington. And I could not. This is one of the rare things that John Boehner and I have in common. I could not do my job without Cindy Buell. Who really should be up here with me. This is why I wasn't sure I wanted to do this. When I first came to Washington, I knew some things, but not nearly what I know now. And there are people here who I've learned a great deal from, like Greg Craig, Joe Eldridge, Caleb Rossiter, Susan Braden, and many others. So many times they have pointed me in the right direction. And there's Leonel Gomez, who was a teacher unlike any other to many of us, who we all miss. Many people don't realize that despite how dysfunctional and partisan the Congress often seems and is, quite a lot still gets done. It just means we have to work a lot harder to do it. The change in policy towards Cuba is a good example of that, and people in this room, like Greg Craig, Julia Swag, Phil Peters, Bill Leogrand, and I wish I could name all the others, played essential roles, some going back many years, in getting to where we are today. We also know that we and the Cubans still have a long way to go. Senator Leahy, as you heard, likes to say that senators are really mere constitutional impediments to their staff. But we know that's not really true. As most of you know, I have been extremely lucky. Uncommonly lucky to have a boss who has trusted and supported me the way Senator Leahy has all these years. Before coming to the Senate, Senator Leahy was a prosecutor, and I was a public defender. So we both had a strong interest in access to justice. The fact that Senator Leahy is the longest-serving senator and a member of the Judiciary and Appropriations Committees makes a big difference. But even more important is that human rights and wanting the United States to be the strongest, consistent defender of human rights, not only in Latin America, but around the world, has been a priority of his, going back to the time of the assassination of Archbishop Romero. The fact that atrocities like that still happen in Latin America, that impunity for such crimes remains widespread, that the lives of people like Danilo and Sister Cecilia and Liliana continue to be threatened, and that we all believe that justice and a better future are possible for the people of Latin America, reminds us of why we are here and how much more there is to do. Thank you very much.